And it's just you get tired of standing by watching innocent lives be taken for no reason at all because you don't like someone or because the way you feel or how you were treated. I mean, I've never was one to want to go just bother people for any reason. I can't understand for the life to take a man's life rather than just following justice and just going through the protocol for what you do and what you don't do when it comes to someone you apprehend. Once you get them cuffed, or if you have to tase them to subdue them, you got them cuffed, you sit them on the curb, or you sit them on their side, or put them in the back of the squad car. And then you just take them on into custody. It doesn't take any more as far as the violence that they do or the brutality that they bring extra. I don't care if he's a big guy, I don't care if he's a small guy, because when the call comes, everyone's coming to your aid. So you're gonna have more than enough help. I was sitting at my work desk in the county one day, and a call came across the radio. One of our officers was in a shootout, and the criminals had him to where they were getting ready to take the officer down to the situation that he was in. And they didn't just take the guy and just shoot him because he was shooting. They didn't kill him because he was shooting at him. They apprehended him. But the one that got away, they shot at him, and he resisted. Then he lost his life. But I don't see why you have to come in and do the things that they're doing. And we've never, Ron can tell you, we've never had that happen in our county. And we're grateful that it hadn't happened. You know, and there's a lot of, like Dwayne said, there's a lot of good cops out there. You know, but the bad ones is what make the good ones look bad because of lack of training or the things that you're not doing at the police academy. If they go back and review, more lives can be saved if they just take officers in and counsel and talk to them. Hey, this is not the way. This is not what you were trained to do. You don't take a man's life unless your life is being threatened. You have 3 seconds to make a decision. Everybody want to go home to their children or to their families that night. You know, but it's just the right way of doing things because, yes, this is real. And my outlook is if they don't stop what they're doing, it's going to be an uprising to where more police officers are going to get shot on a daily because people are tired of seeing police shoot their sons and shoot their nephews when it wasn't him, he was innocent, or you got the wrong one. It's just a matter of time that people are going to take a stand because they're tired of seeing their sons and nephews get killed by the hand of police, whether they're evil or corrupt or just hatred for a certain race of people. It doesn't make it right. And those are the ones that should not be wearing the badge.
Real quick, Ron, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think, what can be done?
What can be done? Extensive training. When we were being trained, just on things that changed, like the Me Too movement with the ladies, the county can be sued if let me just create a scenario for you. There's a woman on the elevator. We also have cameras in there. If I were to stare a woman up and down in the elevator, that's a lawsuit. So we had to go through training for that, how to appropriately open the door. Because if we touch a young lady coming through the door, if she know her rights, we touch her on the arm or the elbow, that's a lawsuit. Because in law enforcement, it goes against the code of ethics, number one. But then on the law enforcement side, our hands, as soon as we touch someone, because we've been sworn in by the merit board, the state, on our department, the sheriff himself. So as soon as you touch an individual, they're considered under arrest. So there are just certain things that you can and cannot do, and training, knowing protocol will help de-escalate a lot of what we see happening. And I would just say a lot of what we see happening is motivated out of fear, because some of these things in some of these places may have not happened before. There's a town in Indiana that don't really deal with a lot of things. They might deal with things like a cat stuck in a tree, you know, or maybe the old lady couldn't get back to her house, things like that. They really have no crime in that area. So they don't train for those type of things, because in places like Chicago, Gary, Indiana, I believe you said Minneapolis, but those are the places here in Las Vegas. We have things going on that will require extensive training, what to do. Maybe even the person that responds for the call, maybe sending a ranking officer who has the most experience, because, and then I'll just say this, I don't care how much training you have. We are human, and you can panic. Fear can cause you to panic and make the wrong decision in a split second, because it's way different when you're in a classroom than when you're on the streets. You have to be able to decide what to do in a split second. It's either that life or your life. So a lot of it is panic.
I agree. I did want to make another point about, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm only going to speak with the training that I received, because I think Milwaukee Police Department has one of the best police academies at the time that I was going. And but I do remember during the training, a lot of the superior trainers and officers saying, if they ever see this, they might be mad at me, but most of the training that we go through is not just to save our lives, but it's to save ourselves in court.
Yes.
You're taught certain things, so when you get pinned up on a case, the city can say, but we trained him. We told him not to do that. So I'm going to assume that this officer had the same type of training. One of those types of training, and you guys can back me up if this is true for you, is that anytime you have to use any type of force that causes injury, as soon as you've deemed the scene safe, you are required by policy and law or whatever to deliver medical aid. You have to try to bring that person back. You don't just sit on his neck, and then when he's dead, hey, get a sergeant here. No, you got to try to bring that guy back. So many laws this guy was executed. There's black people being, and I'm going to take it there. See, because a lot of this is just racism and prejudice. I'm going to take it there. It's not lack of training. It's some of these cops who have an issue with black or issue with people of color. They're taking this opportunity to get something out that it's just something in them that is telling them that this is okay. And how are we going to fix this? One, call it out. Call it out. I remember, and it's not just being called out, because black folks have been calling it out for decades. White people have to call it out. You have to call it out. Cops have to call it out. One of those cops could have said, dude, get off of him. That's enough.
Come on. Right.
That it's common sense, and it's we're human. You know when you're doing wrong. You have a lot of people come, I like I said, I read a lot of posts, and people are making up all these excuses of why this and why that. You know what? The fact of the matter is there are people out there, and I'm sorry if I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, but there's people out there who are white that don't like black people. If that's something that you're not used to hearing, it's just the truth. There are people out there that just don't like black people. And I'm going to tell you this. When you are that type of person, that you don't like a person because of the color of their skin, and that's it. It's because the color of their skin. I said this before. I think that is a form of mental retardation. You're retarded because it doesn't make any sense why somebody, we're supposed to be judging each other by the content of our character. And then on top of that, we're supposed to be, as kingdom people, we're supposed to be having grace for those who are not who are not like us, those who are not on the level that we're on. And I'm not trying to say that to be arrogant or anything. I'm saying God has extended grace to us. We need to start using it. So one thing is call it out. I remember when I was playing in a heavy metal band, a heavy metal band, all white guys. We were doing a heavy metal concert with some other bands. in Wisconsin. I'm not going to say the town. All white people. I'm the only black person. Imagine that. So after the concert, we go to this party. Now I'm saying this because this is what white people have to start doing. We were at this house party, and there was tons of people in there, and the music's going, and we're in there having some beers, and I'm with my band in the corner, and some people come downstairs that don't like black people, okay? And they made that very well known. What's he doing here? Saying the N-word and all this and that. What my band did for me, I've never seen. They grabbed me and pulled me behind them. And they basically said, you want him? You gotta go through us. Because we are family. That is what people have to do. When you see it, you have to call it out. And I'm gonna tell you something, it's all about ethics. It also has to do with when you're alone with your white friends and someone's saying N-word this, N-word that, you have to have the courage to say, look, this is the reason why we have this problem in this country. When are you going to grow up? When are you going to understand that in order for this country to truly, truly, truly be great, we have to learn to admire and love everyone's gifts. Everyone's gifts. This country would never be what it is today if it wasn't for this color. I'm just telling you, deal with it.
Just a second. Whenever you're ready, you can.
Okay. There's another thing I want to say. There's a lot of issues here at hand. And we have to understand also, things don't happen until you vote people in and out of office. Because we don't want to talk about the politics, but that's where it starts at. You have corruption in politics. I've seen corruption, Ron's seen it from where we worked at. High respected people that you wouldn't think were corrupt or doing things. And I've watched the feds walk people out of office and shut down certain parts of our county. Because people were in office stealing the money or doing things that they should not have been doing. Trusted people, trusted politicians, and trusted law enforcement individuals. But I'm gonna keep saying, yes, it's not about skin color, it shouldn't be. We all should honor and respect each other. But at the same time, see, this is a plot of the enemy because corrupt kings did this in the Bible days. If we don't recognize it, it's gonna keep coming back around. Every generation is gonna deal with it. It's just at this time, as Wendell always taught about those 7 mountains. This is one of those mountains. But now the church is rising up. This is the time for the saints to get in position. We need saved mayors. We need saved governors. We need more saved police officers. We need more saved chief of police. We need more saved sheriffs. Because when you have God's people in position and the church praying, we can stop what's going on in our environment. We can stop a lot of this from happening. Yes, Martin Luther King came a long way with the things that he done, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, this is a modern day Pharaoh and the children of Israel, but God is yet in control. But first, what are we as this entity going to do about it, the church? What are we going to do about it first? And I believe that if we stand up and unite, our brothers won't keep getting gunned down, because this is nothing but an evil, wicked spirit that Satan is using in the police. And it's a modern day KKK, it's a modern day racist or racism, that's all it is. But when the church get tired of being sick and tired, then we're gonna see changes. Then we're gonna see it happen in our schools. Won't be no more shootings, won't be no more killings, won't be no more break-ins. I remember and Ron remember as a kid, we were afraid to do things because back then the police officers knew our families. And the police officer had the right to take his belt off and whip us. Our mom and dad would let him do it. And I'm gonna tell your mom, get off that building. You throwing rocks at that window. Well, don't tell my dad. You know, we were scared. We gave them the honor and the respect that they were supposed to have. But now if you got little kids using the N-word or talking to other little kids the wrong way, it's because of what they see at home and what they've been taught and trained at home. No training. But if you bring them families to church, it won't happen that way. Because we know if a black kid go and shoot up a church, you're getting shot and killed right on the spot. It shouldn't be about your color of skin. If everybody looked at it the way you should see it in the Word, when we stand up and get tired, then all of this, the devil can't go through with his plan. He has a plan just like God does. He has things on the calendar of what he wants to do and when he wants to do it. But when we come against him, it'll stop half of what's going on in our streets. I mean, it's more than just talking about another one gunned down, another one gunned down, another guy killed, he couldn't breathe. That's true. You hate to see it happen. And it shouldn't happen with no race. And it's just like if I'm black and you got a Hispanic officer and I don't like Hispanics, then why would I go in the neighborhood looking for trouble? If I go in there long enough and look around, I'm gonna find the problem. You over there doing something, and then I'm gonna pull out my weapon and shoot him because I see a Hispanic guy walking down the street. I mean, if that's the case, you let someone go in and handle that situation if I got a problem with whatever creed. Or in that case, then I need to go back and talk to somebody if I got a problem. But see, a lot of conspiracy, because they cover up and they hide. And then it's politics. But if we put the word where it need be applied and put more of the people of God in these places, that's half our problem right there.
I wanted to just say, that leads us right into, what is the kingdom perspective of this? What do you guys see? What's God showing you about this? I think what I heard from Dwayne was call it out. If you're white and you're seeing white people being racist, well, say something. And what in the world are you doing hanging around with those people anyways? My goodness, get the heck out of there. I don't have any racist friends, thank God. But if I did, I'd kick them to the curb or call them out or get them saved, one of the two. But I don't get it. But what's the kingdom perspective?
For me, the kingdom perspective, it starts at home. It starts with God, with Christ. I wrote on my post yesterday, no Christ, no peace, K-N-O-W. But no Christ, no peace, N-O. Right. So it starts at home with your relationship with God. A lot of this would curtail if we would just get into a relationship with Christ. Invite the Lord into your heart. And a lot of decisions that you would have made, the Holy Spirit would have come in and said, hey, maybe let's look at it this way. But the church has to be in a place to be able to bring in the souls. And you asked earlier, you said, how could we stop this? Let me just explain the protocol when I became a sheriff, what happened. So there's a psych test with about 600 questions that you had to answer. There were no right or wrong answers, but you would ask questions like, if you see me walking down the street, would you cross the street to prevent from speaking? And then they take that same question and ask that question for about maybe 10 or 15 different ways. So the basic of the test is to see an answer. They want a consistency. So then after you went through with that, once you became a part of the sheriff department or whatever agency, you after every traumatic incident, you always are supposed to see a psychiatrist. And then after every bullet, every use of force that's done, there's a report that's supposed to be written for every bullet that's released or discharged from your sidearm. Every cartridge that's released from your taser has to be reported on in third person, and there has to be 3 reports that's written. One for your records, one for the agency, and one for your superior. And this is how it works. These reports, or this, if in the incident of a bad situation, these reports can go back 10 years where you think you have gotten free from whatever. it can come back and bite you 10 years. I've seen reports disappear. So they tell you, when you make a report after an incident, lock it up somewhere in your home. Don't tell nobody where you locked it up at, because they'll break into your home to steal that report to keep them from going to prison from what they did. Like you said earlier, Dwayne, there is certain word or verbiage that you could use in court. Dynamic use of force will get you off or soften the blow. And I've seen situations where lawyers, judges, and officers, I had an incident that happened, and I saw it. I witnessed it. Man, they came and got me so quick, put me up in the room, got me quiet before I could say anything. What happened? Let's hear your story. When I told what I saw, they wanted to change my statement. And so it would have gotten one of my fellow officers in prison time. So the lawyers, the DAs, and everybody in high rank wanted to make sure they would tell you what to say. I've seen places and situations where they play checkers with a person's life. Yeah. Give me him and I'll give you him. Yeah. So it's gonna take the church to actually go in an intercession and really pray about who gets in these seats. Because we need, like you said, we need saved lawyers, we need saved judges. It's just so much out there that's corrupt. Our world, our nation needs a lot of prayer.
Yeah, that's right.
Kingdom perspective in this situation. I so agree with Ron. I mean, it does start at home, and it does start with Christ. The next level of that, however, I believe, is the church. Now, we have churches that can't see eye to eye on race. Sorry, might be hurting your feelings. This is just the way it is. You have white churches, you have black churches, you have, and they're all Christian churches, but they can't become a true body. See, this is about the body of Christ. This is not about the limbs of Christ. Okay, we have a Kojic over here, that's a leg. We have another Latin church over here, they're Christians, that's an arm. We're over here, we're another leg. We can no longer do that. We can no longer afford to allow the enemy to keep us divided with distractions like race. Race is a distraction, because as long as we're fighting about race, the enemy is coming up and outflanking us and attacking us from an area where we're divided. We need to come together as a body. We need to get all the churches together and stop discriminating against each other because we have different views of what the Bible might say. The bottom line is, do you believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins? You are a son and daughter in Christ. And as long as you're a son and daughter in Christ, which is pretty much everybody on this planet, I love you. I'm almost required to. Why? Because I love my Father. You ever hear that term? Any friend of mine is a friend of... Any friend of yours, Ron, is a friend of mine. Well, my Father loves this guy over here. He happens to be a white guy. Well, my Father loves him. And because I trust my Father and I love my Father and I know my Father is good, this person must be good. So I'm going to love him the way my Father loves him. This is the way we need to start treating each other.
We've reflected on a lot of areas, but one area I want to talk about, I'm not going to let the mothers and fathers off the hook either. Because when we were coming up, my dad, when they would say it's time to sit down and break bread and have dinner, we're all at the table together. No TVs, talking about whatever is going on in the family. But nowadays, mothers and fathers, uncles and aunts, and grandparents are not making their sons go to church. And when we were kids, you had less things going on in the world because everybody was going to church. Those grandmothers and grandfathers, before they died, they were praying. But on Sunday mornings, my dad wasn't saved, but he made sure the whole house was at church, Sunday school. Whatever time my grandfather would be outside blowing, and don't be late, get up out that bed, get your clothes on, get dressed, go to church. And that stopped a lot of things from happening back then compared to now. See, Satan knows that when that unity is not there, he can do no damage when the whole family is there together, praying and you doing what you have to do. But when he gets you by yourself, that's when he can isolate your mind and get our youth doing the things that don't help, that will attract the police to you as well. I mean, letting them go out with saggy, baggy clothes on, and you're a target for them to think you're looking for trouble or you're getting ready to get into something. So that's why I keep saying, if we keep our children, sons, and keep them prayed up, pray, but keep them in church, all of this can't happen so much as rapid as it is in the streets. But versus them not going and they're doing what they want to do at wee hours of the day, they're just on Satan's playground for anything to happen, targeted for any type of killing. Wherever you're walking, the police is suspicious of you, or you look like you meet the description. But if we take it back to the starting point, and like it was when we were raised up, we didn't see these things and we didn't hear of these things. But Satan knows his time is winding down. He's going to take out all the punches and throw everything out there in the book that he can to, they couldn't burn us at the stake. Racism back in the early days and slavery days. So now what is the devil doing now? Since he can't get other races just to take us out, he got black people killing black people as well. You see everybody else doing what they have to do to protect what they have, but we are the only race of people who don't really care about what we've been taught, the values that's been put in us, and the parents are friends with their kids nowadays, smoking and drinking with them rather than yet laying down things, the values that you instilled in those sons and daughters. So now they're out in the streets, or they're looking at the videos, they're looking at the lifestyles of what rappers are doing, and you're getting gunned down in your time of trying to have fun. Satan's sifting us as wheat. And the question is, when it comes to our families, what are we going to do about it?
So I would walk away with my departing statement is, like Dwayne said, know your rights. Be respectful to the officer. If you pulled over, be respectful. Get into a habit of putting your wallet in your visor, so that way they can see your hands at all times. Because a lot of officers are acting out of fear. They think that you're reaching. Hey, officer, is it okay? My wallet is here, or it's there. Do I have permission to get that? Some teens, we're dealing with a different culture today. Kids are not afraid to fight back. This is different from Martin Luther King's time. Kids are wanting to fight back, and they're wanting to use violence. And we know that violence doesn't change anything. But get cameras. I implore everybody to get cameras. It's sad to have to say that and do that, but this is the day that we live in. There are cameras that once you plug it up and put it in your windshield and even the rear, when you start that car, that camera automatically starts. So if you pull it over, all you have to do is turn it around on the officer, so that everything can be recorded. Because now that they have the body cams, well, those are turning off. They found a way it used to be where as soon as you pull your weapon, it would activate the camera. But they found a way to get around that. So the officers were very upset when they came up with the dash cam, because this is what's been going on. And thank God for technology, because these things are now coming to surface because of live media.
Right. I agree. I think your best weapon, I agree with both these gentlemen. Your best weapon, I think, is just use your head, a calm, cool head. A lot of people say, well, I don't want cops all up on me. I'm not a punk. You might not be a punk, but you can still be dead. Some people say, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. When you keep a calm head, you know your rights. It's okay to talk to an officer confidently and intelligently and tell him he's doing something wrong, but you can still be compliant. I have had gentlemen that I was arrested, they would be reading me statutes, but they're still doing, and calling me names, but they're still doing what I'm telling them to do. passive aggressive. I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm saying is you have to figure out what works for you. I also think that, we as officers or when we talk about teaching people, teaching kids, whatever, I almost feel like we need to teach people how to deal with the cops. We need to have a standard of how we deal with cops so we are able to be good witnesses when something doesn't always, and we need to stop expecting something to go wrong. We need to think about this on a higher plane. I think we need to get closer to the presence of God. We need to pray about it. We really do need to pray about it. We have a problem here, and black and black crime, white on white crime. See all that? That's the same thing. Black and black crime. I don't want to hear that excuse anymore when people talk about, well, there's more black people who killed each other than white. That has nothing to do with this situation. It's completely two separate things. And I'm not saying that to disparage anything that you were saying. I'm trying to make a point that we don't want to show any focus on anything else other than what the true problem is. The true problem is black people seem to be the focus of cops' bullets. And that is what needs to stop. And we are all accountable. And us as believers, people who have a relationship with Christ, it starts with us. And we can't turn our heads anymore. We can't, talk to people and we should be able to expect some kind of compassion or some kind, black people need to forgive. We need to forgive. Right? Slavery days are over. We can't, and I'm not saying get over it, but what I'm saying is as long as we stay in that mindset, we're not making things better. Slavery happened. The results of slavery are still current today. Stuff is still happening. The playing field is still not equal, but that's something we're going to deal with as well. Right now, we need to stay alive. You understand?
Yeah. Amen. You know what? The only way you can see people the way you're supposed to see them is you have to be able to see them, in each person, the way God sees them. And how many of you know that God doesn't see you as a skin color? He doesn't do that. He sees you for who he created you to be. The only way to see people the way God sees them is you and I, we must say, God, give me a heart that's capable of loving you so that I can see these people the way you do. And that's it. So it doesn't matter what your race is, it doesn't matter what your color is. If you see people based on color, you have a problem. And you need to ask God to come in and give you an ability to see people the way he sees them, because he sees them as much more than that. We need people in every area of power to be people who know who God is, that have a relationship and can hear God. And so the church needs to pray for these people to manifest and begin to show up. That's where we start. Practically, you just need to call this stuff out and stop being afraid of it. We need to stop acting like it doesn't exist or it's not real, because it is. So take that to heart. Just do it. Thank you for watching us. We love you. And you know what? It's going to get better as we move forward. It is. I just believe that. But it's going to be what God does. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps you. I hope you can see this from the perspective of three men who understand what's going on and can help you with that.
Prayers to the George Floyd family.
Yeah. To the George Floyd family. I mean, when you watch George Floyd and who he was a really cool guy. I mean, he's out there advocating things for young people, anti-gun, a lot of cool things he's doing. He was a really cool guy. So but when you see this guy, he's big, right, and he's black, all you think, you know what, the truth is, every negative thing you can think about a person is what's being thought of them. but that's not who he was. So we've got to begin to see people the way God sees them. So we bless and pray that the peace of God will be upon the George Floyd family. I pray that God will, I just feel the heart of God on this. I just pray that things will happen, that this will be something that is an example for those officers who think they can just do whatever they want. I hope there are repercussions here so that we can start to have a standard that says, if you're a police officer, you can't do whatever you want. You must do what you're trained to do. Lives matter of all time, and you cannot take a life senselessly over someone writing a bad check. Makes no sense. Just makes no sense to me. But we love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you to get closer to God and love people. Andrew Walker, Zabrian, Ron, Dwayne, you guys did an amazing job. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and sharing your heart.
Thank you. I just want to say, Andrew, what you're doing, man, is awesome. I mean, thank you, because, you know, this is where it starts. We all talk.
Thanks for having us.
Amen.